Hey, in this video I'm going to debunk 3 common productivity myths that I have fallen for myself and that many others frequently fall for too. I will share what I have learned along the way and give you useful tips and strategies to overcome them too. But before we dive in, if you're new here, my name is Robin, I'm a software engineer turned coach, and on this channel we explore strategies and tools to help you lead a more balanced, productive and fulfilling life. Let's dive into myth number 1. Many people believe that productivity is about doing more. While they're not entirely wrong, they're also not exactly right. It is, in fact, about doing more, but not the way most people think. And the difference is key to understanding how to actually become more productive. It is about doing more what matters to you. This could very well mean carving out time to do more of what you're already doing, but it might also mean cutting out tasks that don't add value or finding ways to approach necessary tasks more efficiently. Let me try to explain it using my favorite analogy. Picture yourself in a hamster wheel. You're busy running all day, 5, 6 or even 7 days a week, only to realize at the end of the week that you haven't moved a single inch. Despite putting all your energy into it, you're still in the same place. Now, what can you do about it? What most people would try to do is to run faster and faster, hoping they would eventually get somewhere if they only tried really hard. The problem is, no matter how fast you run, how hard you try, you will always be trapped in this never-ending race. Actually, the only likely thing to happen here is that you will eventually get tired of it or, in the worst case, burn out. Okay, so what do we learn from that? What other options are there for us? Here's the thing. The goal is not to simply do more and more, but to break out of that imaginary wheel and start a journey that actually leads somewhere. It really doesn't matter what your journey looks like as long as you enjoy it. For example, for some the goal might be to get a certain promotion, while for others the whole reason they try to improve their productivity is to have more time with their loved ones. That's why whenever someone tells you what to do, and this includes me by the way, take a step back and reflect on whether that will actually help you or not. Let me give you an example. One of the most common productivity tips is to watch videos at 2x speed. While in theory that sounds great, I mean, you could potentially watch twice as much videos as you would have done before, right? But what's the point of consuming content if it's not actually helping you achieve your goals? I mean, if it does, then that's great, but if it doesn't, it's just noise and you're wasting your time. Being selective matters more than speed. Instead of trying to do more, ask yourself what's the most important thing and focus only on that. Before we jump to the next one, if any of this resonates with you and you would like to get more tips on personal growth and productivity, then please hit that subscribe button below and let's figure it out together. Alright, off to the next one. Have you ever caught yourself not starting a task because you only have 20 minutes left and you think like, no, that's not enough time, I can't do it properly anyway, so why should I even start? Well, that's what the thank myth is all about. It's that more hours equals more results. This is not only a false assumption, but sometimes it's actually the opposite way. To explain it, let me introduce you to Parkinson's law. It basically says that work expends to the available time. Let me give you an example. Think about a homework assignment you had for school or college. Despite having days or even weeks to write it, chances are you still manage to finish it in the last few hours before the deadline. That's Parkinson's law in action. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that this is what we're aiming for, nor that the results are necessarily great. But I really like this example, because so many people can relate to it, and we only often hear it in the context of procrastination. The main point is, tasks often have diminishing returns after a certain point. Putting in more time doesn't necessarily lead to better outcomes. It might actually even hurt them. So we really want to hit that sweet spot. But how can we do that? This is where the Pareto principle, also known as the 80-20 rule, comes in. It teaches us that 80% of the results often come from just 20% of our efforts. Instead of aiming to perfect every detail, focus on the tasks that drive the most impact. Think about your own work. What's the 20% that drives the majority of your results? The next time you only have 20 minutes for a task, ask yourself, how can I spend that time in the most effective way possible? And focus only on that. You don't need endless hours to get results. What matters more is showing up regularly and staying focused on what truly moves the needle, even if it's just 20 minutes a day. Finally, let's talk about routines. They are everywhere. There are a ton of books, videos, and even online courses on specific routines. Some only take a couple of minutes, while others span multiple hours a day. Some are fairly cheap, while some cost a fortune. The only thing they all have in common is that they're advertised as if they are the only way to reach peak productivity, health, and whatnot. To avoid misunderstanding, I want to be very clear here. There's nothing inherently bad with such routines. In fact, I actually support the idea, and I have my very own routines for all sorts of things. The problem is the way they are sold. It's easy to believe you're failing or not good enough if you don't consistently wake up at 5 AM, meditate for an hour, or drink green smoothies before sunrise. But productivity isn't a one-size-fits-it-all. Every human is different, with different circumstances, goals, and preferences. If you want to build routines, I would recommend to create your own and start very small. Consider picking just one habit to focus on for as little as 5 minutes a day, like journaling or stretching. You can always extend it later on. Of course, that's not to say you can't draw inspiration from others. Most popular routines certainly make sense, and some are even backed by science. Just remember that you might be in a very different position than they are. After all, the best routine is the one that works for you and your current situation. It's okay if it evolves over time, and it's also completely okay if you currently find yourself at the low point where you're barely able to do the essentials. Remember the hamster wheel. There's no point trying to compete in a race that you can't possibly win in the first place. What's your take on routines? Are there any you swear by? Or have you ever felt pressured into following someone else's? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Okay, now let's recap what we've covered today. First, we learned that productivity isn't just about doing more, but about doing more of what matters to you. Then we explored why more time doesn't necessarily lead to better results, and why focusing on the right things and showing up consistently is much more important. And finally, we talked about routines and why it's better to build your own, starting small and adapting as needed. And that's it for today. In my next video, I'll dive into 2 powerful principles that will transform how you think about priorities and help you master them in your life. Make sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss it. Until then, see you next time.